Hang on tight, because we're about to screech to a sudden halt. That's right, the Earth is going to stop spinning for just 5 seconds. Only 5 seconds. How much damage could that possibly cause? The answer: absolutely catastrophic damage. Total devastation. Basically the end of civilization as we know it. How much destruction would this sudden stop cause? What would you experience in different parts of the world? And when the Earth starts spinning again after 5 seconds, would our planet still be habitable? Let's find out what would happen if the Earth stopped spinning for 5 seconds. Earth's rotation, the spin that gives us day and night. Before we bring everything to a catastrophic halt, let's understand what's actually happening right now as you read this. The Earth makes one full rotation on its axis every 24 hours. This is what gives us day and night. As the planet spins, different parts face toward the sun, that's daytime, while the opposite side faces away from the sun into darkness, that's nighttime. But here's something you might not think about. You're currently moving extremely fast right now. If you're standing at the equator, you're traveling at about 1,670 kilometers per hour as the Earth rotates. That's faster than the speed of sound. You're literally moving faster than a jet airplane flies and you don't even feel it. The reason you don't feel this incredible speed is because everything around you, the air, the ground, the buildings, other people, is all moving at exactly the same speed in the same direction. There's no relative motion between you and your environment, so you don't perceive any movement at all. The Earth has been spinning like this for an incredibly long time. Our planet started spinning about 4.6 billion years ago when it was first forming. Back then, the solar system was just a huge disk of gas and dust swirling around the young sun. As dust particles and rock grains collided and clumped together, they generated angular momentum, a force that kept the growing planet rotating in one direction. You can imagine it much like a figure skater spinning. When a skater pulls their arms in close to their body, they spin faster and faster. Similarly, as material in the early solar system clumped together to form Earth, the planet's rotation speed increased and stabilized into the 24-hour cycle we have today. Why Earth keeps spinning? Nothing to stop it. Once something starts spinning in space, it tends to keep spinning essentially forever because there are almost no forces to slow it down. There's no friction in the vacuum of space. There's no air resistance. Nothing to grab onto the planet and slow its rotation. The Earth will continue rotating at its current speed for billions of years into the future. The rotation is gradually slowing down very, very slightly over time. The day is getting longer by about 1.7 milliseconds per century due to tidal forces from the moon. But this is such a slow process that it's essentially imperceptible. In practical terms, Earth's rotation is stable and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Barring some absolutely catastrophic cosmic event, we don't have to worry about the planet stopping or even slowing down significantly. But let's imagine the impossible. Let's say some cosmic force, maybe an alien civilization with technology beyond our comprehension, or a deity with a twisted sense of humor, or just the universe deciding to break its own rules for 5 seconds, causes the Earth to suddenly stop spinning completely. What happens next would be absolutely apocalyptic. The sudden stop. Atmosphere doesn't get the memo. If the Earth suddenly stopped rotating on a dime, you might think you'd just feel a lurch and everything would be still. But that's not how physics works. When the planet comes to an abrupt halt, the solid ground beneath you stops moving. The buildings stop moving. The mountains and valleys stop moving. But the atmosphere, all the air around you, would still be in motion. Remember, the atmosphere has been moving along with Earth's rotation at 1,670 kilometers per hour at the equator. It has momentum, and momentum doesn't just disappear when the ground stops moving. The air would keep moving at that incredible speed even though everything else had stopped. This means that though the ground has lurched to a stop beneath you, powerful winds, the most powerful winds imaginable, would continue to blow at the speed the Earth had been rotating. Near the equator where the rotation is fastest, you'd be hit by winds traveling at 1,670 kilometers per hour. To put that in perspective, the fastest wind speed ever recorded on Earth was during Tropical Cyclone Olivia in 1996. When winds reached 253 miles per hour, about 400 kilometers per hour, the winds from Earth suddenly stopping would be more than 4 times faster than that. The equator, where destruction is absolute. If you happened to be standing near the equator when the Earth stopped spinning, you'd experience the absolute worst of the catastrophe. Those 1,670 km per hour winds would hit you like a solid wall. These winds wouldn't just knock you off your feet, they would quite literally obliterate you. Your body simply couldn't withstand forces of that magnitude. But forget about you for a moment. These winds would be strong enough to tear up the Earth's crust itself. The sheer force of air moving at that speed would erode rock, strip away soil, and fundamentally reshape the landscape in seconds. Buildings would be completely demolished. It wouldn't matter if you were standing in an open field or inside the most structurally reinforced steel building ever constructed. These supersonic winds would rip apart concrete, twist steel girders like they were made of paper, and reduce everything to rubble and debris. To understand the scale of this destruction, consider that the most powerful hurricanes on Earth, Category 5 hurricanes with sustained winds of about 250 kilometers per hour, can move houses off their foundations, send cars flying through the air, tear apart concrete structures, and strip bark off trees. They're incredibly destructive forces. The winds from Earth's emergency stop would be 3 times stronger than the most powerful hurricane winds ever recorded. 3 times. The destruction would be beyond anything we've ever witnessed or can easily imagine. You'd go flying but not into space. So, with winds that powerful, would you get blown right off the surface of the Earth and into space? It's a reasonable question, but the answer is no. The escape velocity, the speed you'd need to completely escape Earth's gravitational pull and fly off into space, is about 40,000 kilometers per hour. The winds from Earth stopping would be violent and would absolutely send you flying a considerable distance, but they wouldn't be nearly fast enough to overcome Earth's gravity and launch you into space. You and a lot of other debris, chunks of buildings, vehicles, trees, basically everything not firmly anchored to bedrock, would go flying eastward at incredible speeds. You might travel several kilometers before eventually crashing back to the ground, but you'd still be on Earth, just in a very different location, and almost certainly very dead from the trauma of being thrown at supersonic speeds and then hitting the ground. Other locations, destruction everywhere. You might be thinking, okay, the equator sounds terrible, but what if I'm somewhere else? Somewhere farther from the equator where the rotational speed is slower. Unfortunately, there's no safe latitude when it comes to this scenario. At higher latitudes, places like New Zealand, France, the northern United States, or Canada, you'd experience slightly weaker winds, but they'd still be devastatingly powerful. At about 45 degrees latitude, which includes places like France, northern Italy, or southern Canada, the rotational speed of Earth is about 1,180 kilometers per hour. The winds there would also be 1,180 kilometers per hour. These winds would still be much, much stronger than any storm that has ever occurred in recorded history. They would demolish buildings, strip landscapes bare, and kill virtually everything exposed to them. The destruction would be nearly as complete as at the equator, just slightly less severe. Even at 60 degrees latitude, places like Oslo, Norway, or Anchorage, Alaska, the winds would still be around 830 kilometers per hour. Still supersonic, still absolutely devastating. There's essentially nowhere on Earth between the equator and the poles where you'd be safe from catastrophic wind damage. The shape-shifting planet, water goes rogue. But the supersonic winds wouldn't be the only hazard you'd need to worry about during these 5 seconds. The Earth itself would begin to change shape, and that would create another massive problem. Water. Our planet is not actually a perfect sphere. It bulges slightly near the equator due to centrifugal forces generated by the planet's rotation. The equatorial diameter is about 43 kilometers larger than the polar diameter. Earth is what scientists call an oblate spheroid, basically a sphere that's been squashed slightly at the poles and bulged at the equator. This bulge exists because of Earth's rotation. The centrifugal force from spinning pushes material outward at the equator, causing that bulge. If the rotation suddenly stopped, that centrifugal force would disappear instantly. Without the rotation to maintain the equatorial bulge, Earth would immediately begin transforming into a perfect sphere. The planet would physically reshape itself, with the equatorial regions sinking inward and the polar regions rising up. All the water that has been gathering near the equator due to that bulge would suddenly start flowing away toward the poles. We're talking about truly massive amounts of water, enough to generate a tsunami that would make any historically recorded tsunami look insignificant by comparison. This wouldn't be a normal tsunami with one large wave. This would be the entire ocean redistributing itself across the planet. Water hundreds of meters deep would surge away from the equatorial regions and rush toward the poles at incredible speeds. Coastal cities would be submerged. Islands would disappear. The reshaping of the oceans would be catastrophic on a scale we can barely comprehend. The double tsunami. When Earth starts again. Now remember, in our scenario, the Earth only stops for 5 seconds before returning to its normal rotation. This means all that water that just rushed toward the poles would suddenly reverse direction. 5 seconds after the planet stopped, it would return to its full rotational speed. The centrifugal forces would return. The equatorial bulge would need to reform, and all that water that had just flowed toward the poles would immediately start flowing back toward the equator. This means coastal regions would experience not one but two massive water surges. First, a wall of water would slam into everything when the rotation stopped and water flowed poleward. Then 5 seconds later, another wall of water would slam into everything again as the water rushed back toward the equator. That's one absolutely catastrophic storm, happening twice in the span of 5 seconds. Anything that somehow survived the first hit would almost certainly be destroyed by the second. Coastal regions, where most of the world's population lives, would be completely devastated. The combination of supersonic winds and dual tsunami surges would leave absolutely nothing standing. The only safe place, the poles. Is there anywhere on Earth you could potentially survive this 5-second catastrophe? Maybe. The only remotely safe places would be near the North and South poles. At the exact poles, the rotational speed of Earth is essentially zero. You're standing on the axis of rotation, so you're not moving much at all as the planet spins. This means when the Earth stopped, the winds at the poles would be the mildest, perhaps even relatively calm compared to the supersonic destruction everywhere else. You wouldn't be hit by 1,000-kilometer-per-hour winds. You might experience some winds from air rushing in from other latitudes, but nothing like what's happening at lower latitudes. The water redistribution would still affect polar regions. The water level would rise significantly at the poles, but at least you wouldn't be dealing with the combination of supersonic winds and dual tsunamis simultaneously. So if someone gave you advance warning that Earth was about to stop spinning for 5 seconds, your best bet for survival would be to get to one of the poles as quickly as possible and hope for the best. After the 5 seconds, a dead planet. Now you might be relieved to hear that the Earth has returned to its normal rotation after those 5 nightmarish seconds. Everything is spinning again just like it was before. Day and night would continue their normal cycle. The planet itself is physically intact. But here's the problem. There would be virtually nothing left alive on the surface. Every building would be demolished beyond recognition. All farmland would be stripped bare and eroded. All technology and infrastructure would be destroyed. No power plants, no communication networks, no transportation systems, nothing. Billions of people, if not every single person on Earth except perhaps a handful near the poles, would die from the combination of supersonic winds, flying debris, tsunamis, and the general chaos of the planet reshaping itself. Even if you somehow managed to survive those 5 seconds, maybe you were in a deep underground bunker or mine shaft, or you were at one of the poles, you'd emerge to find a planet that was essentially uninhabitable. No food production system, no clean water infrastructure, no medical facilities, no functioning society. The Earth would still be here, still spinning, still orbiting the sun, but human civilization would be effectively over. Survival odds and reality check. So if you're looking to survive this apocalyptic scenario, you better start building an underground bunker deep enough to protect you from the surface chaos. Stock it with years' worth of food, water, and supplies. Make sure it's somewhere near the poles for the best odds. But here's some good news. This scenario is essentially impossible with our current understanding of physics. There's no natural process or known phenomenon that could cause the Earth to suddenly stop spinning and then start again 5 seconds later. The Earth won't come to a halt anytime soon, not in the next few billion years at least. The planet's rotation is stable and will remain so until the Sun itself begins to die. And speaking of the Sun, before the Earth's rotation becomes an issue, our Sun will have burned through its hydrogen fuel and begun expanding into a red giant, eventually engulfing the inner planets, including Earth. But that's not happening for another 5 billion years or so. So you can rest easy, knowing that Earth's rotation isn't going to suddenly stop. We have plenty of other things to worry about. But that particular apocalypse isn't on the immediate horizon. Conclusion. Keep spinning. Earth. What would happen if the Earth stopped spinning for just 5 seconds? Complete and utter devastation. Supersonic winds would strip the surface bare. Dual tsunamis would flood coastlines. Buildings would crumble. Billions would die. And even though the planet would return to spinning afterward, civilization would be finished. It's a reminder of just how dependent we are on the stable, predictable rotation of our planet, that gentle spin that gives us day and night, that we never think about or feel, is actually essential to everything about life on Earth. So let's appreciate that Earth keeps spinning reliably, day after day, year after year, and will continue doing so for billions of years to come. If you enjoyed this exploration of a catastrophic but impossible scenario, subscribe for more investigations into what would happen if the fundamental forces of our world suddenly changed. Stay curious and be grateful for our planet's steady rotation.